seen the trauma at the Life Esidimeni hearings, and many have had to recount the pain of losing their loved ones. Now, the South African Human Rights Commission is hearing evidence about July's unrest, and victims, community members, and others are revealing or reliving their fear and anger. Now, to unpack the effects on witnesses, I'm now joined by Pan-African Psychology Union President, Professor Saths Cooper. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor. Now, I mean, this is going to have such a huge psychological impact on residents, the community members. Please tell us more about, how that's going to impact their lives.
Well, look, indelibly, many of those directly affected by that colossal mayhem that happened in July will have very serious issues to deal with. At the one level, it's psychological, mental health, if you like, where some of them, and I noted the testimony of the one witness who actually talks of flashbacks, who talks of the situation, and there will be a series of effects. For instance, lack of concentration, lack of ability to sleep, and actually the lack of the usual things that one engaged in, loss of interest in those kinds of activity. It's going to impact people as a result of that massive public trauma. It's going to impact people at a physical level as well. And then you're going to get the sense of hopelessness, the sense of fear, the sense of uncertainty. The colossal failure of leadership would have exacerbated this because people are not going to trust law and order agencies. We saw that people took issues into their own hands, and there's been consequences for that. But without going into that, I think that we're going to have a few decades of consequences which have to be dealt with, and I don't think we have the appropriate leadership at any level who can heal those wounds that people are experiencing.
Now, we already live in such a violent democracy, and now this happening as well has just, added to the fuel, added fuel to the fire. You said the healing process will take a very long time. But let's talk about the domino effect that this is going to have, like you also briefly touched on. Mm-hmm. It's going to impact people, when it comes to their jobs. It's going to impact people when it comes to kids, actually, when it comes to going to school, interacting with other children. It's going to have a huge psychological impact on these people. Am I right?
Yes, on their psyche and also on their ability to relate to others who may not look like themselves, and the fear, the abiding fear, because there was a constant, incessant social and other media presence on the pogroms that happened in specific parts of the country, particularly in Phoenix. So the ordinary citizens who were engaging with each other, living cheek by jowl, will be looking very askance. And for children, and particularly during a COVID pandemic where the normal social relations have been abruptly curtailed, ordinary school hasn't been happening, so kids are going to grow up distrustful, more distrustful than we'd expect them to be in a violent society like ours. But importantly also, the damage to race relations, if you like. I don't like using race, but the fact is we are stuck with a classification system that is borrowed from apartheid, entrenching it in our minds. And that sense of them and us will be perpetuated. It is sad that that kind of thing should happen in the third decade of our democracy, but it is because we've had failure in leadership at all levels. At community level, where I've attended meetings in Phoenix where people came together irrespective of religion and ethnicity. But to have this kind of thing happen, and very few leaders being on the ground in that area, actually helping to ameliorate the situation.
Yeah.
Instead, some fanning the flames, which we don't need.
It's very true. Very lastly and very briefly, resources for people to get help. Where can people get help?
Well, look, there are many helplines, the usual helplines that we have. There's this depression and anxiety helpline. There's the child line for younger children. There are different social work groups as well as psychological mental health groups. The Psychological Society has members who are willing to help, and they can be contacted on Johannesburg 486-3322. We have a very strong presence in the Durban area.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Professor Saths Cooper, President of the Pan-African Psychology Union.